The sky was burnt orange as the sun sank behind the black hills. Ash fell like snow, silent and gray. The trees had no leaves, only broken limbs that reached for nothing. Everything was quiet except for the wind whispering through twisted metal. The human moved slowly across the shattered field. His boots crunched over bone and glass. Beside him walked his dog. A dark-coated mutt with sharp ears and steady eyes. The dog sniffed the air every few steps. Always alert, always ready. They had survived this war together. Now they searched the ruins for what little remained: food, tools, anything that could be used or traded. But something about today felt different. The silence was heavier, the sky lower. The human couldn't explain it, but his chest felt tight. The kind of tight that came before something bad. The kind that made your body want to run, but your mind want to stay. Then it happened. The dog stopped. Its head snapped to the right. Ears up, tail stiff. It gave a single bark, sharp and loud. The human froze, heart thudding in his chest like a drum. He raised his rifle slowly and followed the dog's stare. They were near the edge of an old landing site. Wreckage lay scattered in every direction. A broken shuttle half buried under concrete and steel. Smoke still curled faintly from its hull even after days. The dog barked again, louder this time. Then it stepped forward, nose twitching. The human followed, feet slow, eyes wide. They moved toward the ruined shuttle, each step louder than it should have been. When they reached the torn side of the ship, the dog stopped again. Its hackles rose. Its mouth curled into a growl. And then the human heard it, a sound like a breath, sharp and broken. Something was alive inside. He stepped around the wreck. Rifle ready, hands shaking, and there it was, crushed between metal and stone. A body not human. Its skin was dark green, its limbs jointed strangely. One arm was twisted under its body. The other reached toward the sky. Its armor was cracked and burned. Its blood thick and blue, and its eyes, wide and terrified, stared right at him. The alien didn't move, didn't speak, just watched him like prey waiting for the final strike. The dog snarled, low and deep. The human held his breath. He should shoot. That's what he was trained to do. That's what everyone would expect him to do. The war was still fresh, the wounds still bleeding. And this thing lying before him was the enemy, but something stopped him. Maybe it was the way it was breathing. Shallow and slow. Maybe it was the look in its eyes, not of hatred, but of fear. Or maybe it was just the silence. That deep silence that begged for something other than death. He lowered the rifle just a little. The alien flinched, its body tensed. Like it expected pain, instead, the human stepped closer. The dog barked again, trying to hold him back. But the human raised his hand. "It's okay," he whispered. Though the alien could not understand. "I'm not here to kill you." The alien's eyes flicked to the dog, then back to the human. It opened its mouth and spoke something broken and soft, a word the human didn't know. Then its hand moved, reaching into a pouch on its chest. The human stepped back fast, rifle raised again, but the alien only pulled out a small metal tag. It held it up slowly, like offering proof. Its hand trembled. The tag was covered in scratches, names in a language the human couldn't read. But something about it felt personal. The human stared at it, unsure. Then he saw the wound on the alien's side, burned deep, bleeding slow. It wouldn't survive long. Not without help. He looked at the sky, then back at the dog. The dog barked once, then whined softly. The human dropped to one knee, pulled a canteen from his pack and held it out. The alien stared at the water, confused. Then with shaky fingers, it took it, drank, not fast, not greedy, but with the caution of someone who expected poison. When it was done, it handed the canteen back and collapsed against the wall, eyes fluttering. The human tore a strip from his own sleeve, pressed it to the wound. His hands were slick with blue blood. He didn't care. The dog sat beside him, still tense, but watching. The human spoke again. "Why were you here? Why were you alone?" The alien didn't answer, just stared into the sky like it was waiting for something else to fall. The human leaned back and looked around. They weren't safe here, too open, too exposed. But he couldn't leave it behind. He didn't know why. Only that this moment felt heavier than it should. He had seen death before. He had delivered it too. But today was different. Today his dog had barked not at a threat, but at a choice. And the human had chosen not to end something, but to begin something he didn't understand. Not yet, but soon, very soon. The smoke in the sky had thickened. Dark clouds rolled over the shattered city as if hiding something worse above. The human knelt beside the broken alien, his dog pacing in tight circles. The silence pressed in again, heavy and closed like a second skin. The alien's breathing was shallow now. Each breath a soft rasp through torn lungs. The wound on its side had soaked through the cloth bandage. Blue blood dripped onto the dirt, steaming faintly where it touched the ground. The human didn't speak, didn't move for a long moment. His hands were still wet with the alien's blood. He looked at the dog, and the dog stared back. Waiting, there were rules in war, clear ones. The enemy wounded on the battlefield was still the enemy. His duty was to report, to retreat, or to finish the job. But his finger never touched the trigger. Not then, not now. Because something in that alien's eyes refused to look like a monster. It looked like pain. It looked like regret. It looked too human. The alien stirred, trying to sit up. It winced and hissed through its teeth. Then its voice cracked out something in its own tongue. Sharp, dry syllables like broken metal. The human couldn't understand, but the alien raised its hand, palm open, fingers trembling. A gesture of surrender maybe, or warning. And then it said one word in broken English. "Run." The human frowned, leaning closer. The alien grabbed his sleeve weakly, its claws brushing fabric. It tried again. "They will come. They will come for me. They will kill you too." The dog barked once, short and sharp, tail stiff as it faced. The ruined street, something out there had changed. The human rose to one knee and scanned the horizon. There was movement far down the street. A shimmer in the dust, like light bending, cloaked scouts, he thought. Not his kind, not human. The alien slumped back against the metal wall. Its voice rasped like sand. "You helped me. Now they will mark you too. They will see your mercy as betrayal. They do not forgive." The human's throat tightened. He looked down at his hands. He didn't regret what he'd done. But the price was rising fast. He could run. He could leave the alien here and vanish into the ruins. No one would ever know. His people might still accept him, might still believe he followed the rules. The dog growled low, a sound that buzzed like a warning. The shimmer in the distance was growing closer. He had seconds, maybe minutes. The human looked at the alien again. It was no soldier now, just a dying shape covered in ash and blood. He cursed under his breath. Then he dropped his rifle. He pulled a strap from his pack and looped it around the alien's chest. "Come on," he whispered. "You're not dying here." The alien blinked in confusion. It tried to speak, but the words caught. In its throat, the human heaved, lifting the alien up onto his back. The weight was sharp and heavy. The alien groaned but held on weakly. The dog barked again, moving ahead, ears tracking every sound. The human followed, one step at a time, each breath a struggle, each corner a risk. They moved into the deeper part of the city, where the buildings leaned like dying giants, where the shadows swallowed sound. Behind them, the shimmer grew stronger. Red lights flashed through the dust for only a second. Drones, hunters, they were being tracked. The dog stopped suddenly, sniffed, then darted into a broken doorway. The human followed, stumbling over loose debris. They slipped into darkness. Inside the building it was cooler, but not safer. Rats scattered across the floor. Cables hung like vines from the ceiling. The human set the alien down behind a shattered desk. The alien's eyes were glassy now, its breath shaking. "You should have left me," it whispered. "Now they will think you're one of us." The human knelt beside it, his face close. "Then let them." The dog stood guard at the door, silent now. Every few seconds it glanced back as if unsure this was right. But it didn't run. It stayed, just like its master. Outside, footsteps passed, fast, mechanical. The walls trembled as something heavy stomped nearby. The alien gritted its teeth. "If they find us, they'll tear you apart." The human didn't answer. He was too busy setting traps, wires, broken glass. An old explosive he'd saved for emergencies. He worked fast, every movement clean and practiced. Then he returned to the alien and gave it more water. The bottle shook in his hand. He wasn't afraid of death, but he was afraid of dying without reason, and this, somehow, felt like a reason. The alien looked at him again, confused. "Why are you doing this?" it asked. "Why save me? You're not like the others." The human didn't answer right away. He looked at his dog, then out the window, then back at the alien, because once, someone saved me, and it changed everything. The alien's eyes closed slowly, its chest rose and fell, shallow but steady. The dog sat beside it now, no longer growling. The human leaned against the wall, rifle in hand again, waiting for what would come next, knowing the worst was still chasing them, but no longer running from it. He'd made his choice, and whatever came next, he would face it standing, not just as a soldier, but as something else, something more. The building creaked above them like an old beast still breathing. Dust fell from the ceiling in slow trails. The dog growled low again, ears pinned flat against its skull. Something was coming. The human could feel it too, not just in the air, but in his blood. That old tension, the kind that always meant death was near. He crouched low behind the broken desk, eyes scanning the doorway. The alien lay beside him, chest rising in uneven waves. Its skin looked paler than before, if pale could describe green. The bandage was soaked now, blood pooling beneath its side. The human glanced at it, then at the dog. "We have to move," he whispered. But the dog didn't bark this time. It simply turned its head toward the hallway. The air shifted then, a high-pitched hum like a whisper from machines. Lights flickered as static crawled along the ruined walls. "They're here," the alien said, barely a whisper. The human nodded once, already lifting the alien slowly onto his shoulder. Every part of him screamed from the weight, from the effort, but he didn't stop, couldn't stop. He stepped out from cover and into the hallway. It was long and narrow, walls bent inward from past explosions. Every footstep echoed like thunder. He followed the dog, who moved ahead like a shadow, its body low, tail stiff. Then behind them came the sound, not loud, not at first. A metallic crack, then a soft hiss. The shimmer appeared again, closer than before, a silhouette made of bending. Light and humming silence, cloaked drones, long-limbed, armed, watching. The human ran, not fast enough, not far enough. The hallway exploded in red light as something fired. A wall of heat slammed against his back. He stumbled. The alien groaned. In pain. But he kept going, through a broken door, into another ruined chamber filled with old furniture and cracked screens. The dog barked then, once, twice, warning. A drone dropped from the ceiling like a spider made of glass and knives. The human swung his rifle up and fired. Sparks flew. The drone jerked back. But it didn't fall. It spun in midair and hissed again. Then a beam of light shot past the human's head. He ducked behind a metal cabinet, heart slamming against his ribs. The alien slipped from his back and landed with a grunt. The dog leapt at the drone, teeth bared. It clamped onto the machine's arm, shaking violently. The drone screeched, arms flailing. The human rolled from cover and fired again. This time the bullet struck deep into its core. The drone sparked, shuddered, and then collapsed. The dog landed beside it, panting, blood trailing from its mouth. "You okay?" the human asked. The dog whined softly and nodded once. The alien pulled itself up, leaning against the wall. "More will come," it whispered. "That was just a scout. We need shelter," the human said. "Somewhere they can't scan." The alien pointed toward the north wall. "There's an old signal chamber beneath the floor. They can't track there." The human didn't hesitate. He pushed aside debris and found a rusted hatch hidden beneath a table. With both hands he pulled it open, metal screaming against metal. The tunnel below was dark, damp, and full of cobwebs. He helped the alien down first, then lowered the dog. Finally, he climbed in and pulled the hatch closed. Darkness swallowed them completely, but it was better than light right now. Light meant they were seen, and being seen meant being hunted. The tunnel was narrow and smelled like burnt wires and rot. They moved slowly, the dog sniffing every few feet. Somewhere above, the sounds of machines still echoed, but down here, it felt quieter, not safe, never safe, but quieter. The alien leaned heavily on the human as they walked. Every step was painful, every breath shallow. They reached the end of the tunnel, a door sealed by rust and time. The human forced it open with a piece of pipe. It groaned, but gave way. Inside was a small chamber lined with old monitors and crushed chairs. The walls were thick with shielding paint. "This was the place," the alien said. "They won't find us here, not right away." The human lowered him gently to the floor. The alien coughed, blood leaking from the corner of its mouth. The dog lay beside it, head resting on its arm. The human dropped his pack and pulled out supplies. Not much left, barely enough for one. But he gave the alien the last pain syringe. The alien gasped as it entered his system, then relaxed, just slightly. "You didn't have to do this." It whispered, "You should have run." "I don't run." The human said, "Not anymore. You're still my enemy." The alien said, "Maybe." The human answered, "But not right now." They sat in silence, breaths filling the tiny room. Above them the war still moved. Above them drones searched and machines hunted. But here, in this place beneath the broken city, two enemies rested side by side. One man, one alien, one dog. Not friends, not yet, but something had changed. Something no war could stop once it started. Trust, thin and fragile like glass, but growing with every moment they stayed alive. The human looked at the dog, who had fallen asleep at last, then at the alien, whose eyes were finally closing. He whispered into the darkness, "We survive this. We change everything." Then he leaned back against the cold wall, rifle on his chest, and waited for whatever came next. The silence in the chamber was deep and heavy, like a blanket made of iron. The human sat with his back against the wall, his rifle resting across his knees. The alien lay still on the floor, eyes half closed. Breath slow but steady, the dog slept. Near the door, one ear twitching every few seconds. Somewhere far above, faint rumbles echoed through the earth like distant thunder. They were still searching, the machines, the drones. The invisible hunters with glowing eyes, they had not stopped, they never did. The human knew it was only a matter of time before they came this way again. He checked the alien's wound. Peeling back the cloth slowly, the blue blood had stopped pouring, but the flesh was dark and raw. The alien winced and looked up. "Still hurts," it said softly. "You're lucky to be alive." The human replied, "Or unlucky," the alien whispered. The dog sat up then, ears perked, body tense. The human turned fast, senses alert. Something had changed in the air, a shift in pressure. A sound too soft for human ears, but clear to the dog. The dog growled, deep and sharp. The alien's eyes widened. "They're coming again," it said. They found the signal room. The human moved fast, pulling the alien up into a seated position. "You said they couldn't scan here," he hissed. "I said not easily," the alien answered. "They must be flooding the area." The human cursed under his breath. He grabbed his bag, slung it over his back, then offered his arm to the alien. "We need to move now." The alien hesitated, then nodded slowly. The dog was already at the door, ready. Alert, focused. The human pushed the door open and stepped into the dark tunnel once more. The floor was slick with moisture, the walls pulsing with low electronic hums. Their footsteps echoed louder than he liked. He turned a corner, then froze. Red lights blinked in the distance. Small at first, then growing brighter. They had deployed sweepers, fast, quiet, floating drones with blades for arms and scanners for eyes. The human stepped back and pushed the alien behind him. He aimed his rifle, but knew it would only buy them seconds. The dog growled again, then turned its head toward a side tunnel. It barked once, short and sharp. "There," the human said, and they ran. The side tunnel was narrow, barely wide enough for them to pass. Pipes ran along the ceiling, dripping onto the floor. The drone behind them entered the tunnel with a shriek of metal and sparks. The dog barked again, loud and furious, then without warning, the alien shoved the human forward. "Go," it shouted. "What are you doing?" the human yelled. The alien reached into its armor and pulled a thin, glowing device, a charge. He pressed it against the tunnel wall and activated it. The human grabbed his arm, but the alien shook his head. "This is the only way." He slammed the device against the wall as the drone closed in, then turned and tackled the machine as it fired. Sparks flew, the alien screamed. The explosion filled the tunnel with fire and metal. The human was thrown against the wall. His ears rang, his vision blurred. The dog whimpered beside him, covered in dust and debris. He pushed himself up, coughing. The air was thick with smoke. He staggered forward through the rubble. The tunnel wall had collapsed behind him. The alien was gone, buried in fire and stone. "No," the human whispered, "not like this." He dropped to his knees, hands shaking. Then something moved in the rubble. A hand burned, shaking, reaching. The alien pulled itself from the wreckage. Half its armor was gone, one eye swollen shut, but it was alive barely. The human grabbed it and pulled it free. "You idiot," he said, "you could have died." "Better me than you," the alien coughed. "You saved me before. Now we're even." The human helped it up, slinging its arm over his shoulder again. "We're not even yet," he said. The dog wagged its tail once, then barked again. Another tunnel, another chance. They moved together through the underground maze, shadows dancing. Along the walls, the alien stumbled with every step, its body broken, but its spirit burning. "You didn't have to come back for me," it whispered. "You were the enemy." The human replied, "But then you bled, you begged, you became something else. Now I don't know what we are." The alien laughed. "Though it sounded like pain, that makes two of us." They reached a service hatch and forced it open. Cool night air rushed in, filled with smoke and moonlight. The city above was still on fire. Ships passed overhead like angry stars. They crawled out into the open, staying low behind broken buildings. The human checked the alien's pulse. "Still weak, but steady. We need help," he said. "You won't find it here," the alien whispered. "Then we make our own," the human said. The dog barked once in agreement, tail wagging slowly. The alien smiled through the blood. "You're strange for a human." "I've heard worse," the human said. "Now keep breathing and stay behind me." They moved toward the eastern ruins, where an old supply outpost still flickered with dying lights. The human knew the risks. If they were spotted by either side, they'd be shot. No trial, no questions. A human carrying a wounded alien was a target to everyone now. But still, he didn't stop, because something had changed in the tunnels. In the fire, in the moment the enemy had shielded him, they weren't allies, not yet. But they weren't enemies either, and somewhere in the heart of war, that meant something powerful. The dog stayed close. The alien leaned heavier now, and the human kept moving, because turning back wasn't an option anymore. Only forward, only through, only together. The ruins stretched ahead like a graveyard of giants. Steel bones rose from the ground, scorched and bent. Ash swirled in the wind, covering everything in a silent gray. The human moved slowly, one arm holding the alien upright. The dog walked close by, ears up, nose twitching. The alien was barely conscious now. Its head dropped every few steps. Its breath rattled like a broken engine, but it refused to fall. Somewhere ahead was hope, or maybe death. But either way, they had no choice but to reach it, the humans. Muscles ached, his throat dry, his eyes scanning every shadow. The sky above had darkened to deep purple, and through the clouds something flickered, a blinking light, faint but steady. He stopped and stared at it. The dog whined and looked up too. "What is that?" the human whispered. The alien opened one eye slowly, then blinked hard as if trying to believe what it saw. "That signal," it said. "That's human tech." The blinking came from the top of a ruined tower, a communications node, barely standing. "If it's still active," the human said, "it could mean backup. Or someone listening, or bait," the alien added weakly. The human didn't argue, but he started moving toward it anyway. Every step was slower than the last. The alien groaned in pain, but didn't speak again. The dog stayed close, never leaving their side. They passed through shattered streets lined with dead machines. Bodies lay half buried in rubble, human and alien alike, faces frozen in pain and fear. The wind moaned through the ruins like a warning, but the signal blinked on, unchanging. The base of the tower they found a collapsed gate. Twisted bars and scorched cement blocked the main entrance. The dog sniffed around and barked once. The human followed it to a side passage hidden beneath a broken scaffold. He crouched low and crawled through, pulling the alien carefully behind him. Inside, the tower was hollow and cold. Lights flickered overhead, some shattered, some barely alive. They climbed the stairs slowly. Each floor creaked under their weight. The alien slipped once and nearly fell, but the human caught him with one arm. "Don't die now," he muttered. "You've come too far for that." Finally they reached the top. The room was small, round, and filled with dust. Screens lined the walls, some cracked, some black, but one still worked. The signal was coming from a panel near the window. The human set the alien down carefully, then moved to the console. He tapped the screen and saw a repeating pulse, coordinates, a message, and a timestamp. It was recent. Less than 2 hours ago. Who sent this? He asked aloud. The alien leaned forward, blinking at the screen. That's your language. Not mine, but the frequency. That's not military, not official. Could be a rogue group. The human guessed. Could be resistance, or scavengers, or someone else. He touched the console again, and a new line appeared. Survivors welcome. Coordinates. Safe. Bring wounded if possible. The human read it twice, then looked at the alien. We're not the only ones out here. Maybe they can help you. Maybe they have medical gear. Or they'll kill me on sight. The alien said quietly. You saw what your commander did last time you were the enemy. The human replied. Now you're not to me. That doesn't matter to your kind. The alien muttered. Maybe not, the human said. But we won't know unless we go. The alien leaned back against the wall. His breathing was worse now. His skin pale and damp. He didn't have long. Even if they found help, it might be too late. But sitting here was death. The signal blinked again, calling like a heartbeat. The dog sat by the window, staring at the distant hills. We need transport, the human said. We won't make it far on foot. The alien lifted a shaky arm and pointed through the broken glass. There, behind the eastern ridge, old drop pods. Some might still work. We used them to flee when the sky turned red. The human nodded. All right, then that's where we go. He helped the alien up again. The tower groaned as they descended. Every floor seemed darker than before. The wind outside had grown louder. The storm was returning. As they reached the ground level, the dog froze. A growl rumbled in its throat. The human raised his rifle fast. Shadows moved through the smoke outside. More drones. At least 3, maybe more. He cursed under his breath and backed away from the door. We need another exit. The alien coughed. There's a maintenance tunnel behind the wall. The human found the hatch and pulled it open. Rust and grime fell off in flakes, but the passage was clear enough. They moved inside, crawling through tight spaces. The dog leading, always listening, above them. The tower lit up with red flashes. The drones had entered, but found nothing. They had vanished like ghosts, safe, for now. The tunnel led them out the far side of the ruins. The air was colder here, the ground cracked and broken by old impacts. In the distance, beneath a rocky ridge, they saw them pods, some wrecked, others intact. Their hope sat silent and waiting under a dark sky. The human felt his heart quicken. We're close, he said, but something in his gut twisted. Because nothing this important ever came without a price. The alien stirred, his eyes glassy but aware. I'm not going to make it, he whispered. You're going to try, the human said. Because if we don't try, then none of this meant anything. The alien stared at him for a moment, then nodded once. The dog barked softly, as if agreeing, and together, the 3 of them kept walking. Toward the pods, toward the signal, toward whatever waited in the dark. Beyond the smoke, because something had changed in the sky, and the signal was still blinking, still calling, still hoping. The wind screamed over the broken ridge like a warning from the dead. Dust curled in the air like smoke rising from old wounds. The human moved carefully between the rocks, one arm around the alien who stumbled with every step. The dog stayed. Low, ears sharp, eyes scanning every shadow ahead of them. The old drop pods gleamed like metal bones half buried in the earth. Some were cracked open, empty and hollow, others still hummed with dying power. The human's breath was shallow, his legs sore, but he didn't stop. He could feel the weight of the choice behind him, and the danger crawling just ahead. They reached the nearest pod, its hatch still sealed. The human touched the control panel and waited. A soft chime answered. Then a hiss of releasing pressure. The door opened. Warm light spilling onto their faces. Inside, the pod was cramped but clean. Old medkits lined one wall. A small terminal blinked with fading energy. The human guided the alien inside and laid him gently on the padded floor. "You made it," he said. But the alien didn't reply. Its eyes were half closed, skin pale and cold. The dog nudged its arm softly and whimpered. The human grabbed the medkit, tearing it open with shaky hands. Inside were tools he didn't understand, instruments made for another species. But he found a serum marked for emergency use and loaded it into the injector. He pressed it against the alien's neck and pulled the trigger. The alien gasped, back arching for a second. Then its breath slowed, stronger than before, still alive, still holding on. The human leaned back, sweat dripping down his face. That's when he heard it, engines roaring in the distance, coming fast. He stood up quickly and peered through the cracked glass of the pod window. 3 dark shapes moved across the sky. Sleek and fast, flying low, military patrols, human craft. They were coming straight for the ridge. The signal, the human whispered. It brought them here. He grabbed his rifle, heart pounding like thunder in his chest, then turned toward the alien. "They'll be here soon," he said. "I don't know what they'll do when they see you." The alien opened its eyes slowly. "They'll shoot me," it said. No warning, no questions. You know that. The human looked down. Jaw tight. He knew, and yet he couldn't walk away. Not after everything. Not after the fire, the tunnels, the pain. He glanced at the dog who was growling, now low and angry. The sky darkened as the ships descended, kicking up dust and rocks as they landed. The hatches opened, and soldiers poured out. Armored, armed, focused. One of them raised a hand, signaling others to fan out. They moved in formation, heading toward the pods. The dog barked, sharp and loud. The human stepped out of the pod slowly. Rifle lowered but ready, hands up, he shouted, "I'm human. Don't shoot." The soldiers froze for a second, then raised their weapons. "Identify yourself," one of them barked. The human gave his name and rank, but their eyes were not on him. They were on the open hatch behind him, and the figure lying inside. They knew. One of them stepped forward. "What is that doing in there?" "It's wounded," the human said. "It's not a threat, it's the enemy." The soldier snapped, "You're helping the enemy. You've broken protocol. This is treason." The human took a step forward. "You don't understand," he said. "This thing saved my life, more than once." Another soldier moved to the side, weapon aimed at the pod. "Don't," the human warned. "He's not your target." The commander stepped out then, older, taller, face marked by scars and war. He looked at the human long and hard. "You were a soldier," he said. "Now you're protecting this thing. Why?" "Because it stopped being a thing the moment it chose to shield me." The commander didn't flinch. "Lower your weapon. Step aside. We will deal with it." The human shook his head. "Not like that. It's not what you think. He's not a killer anymore. He chose to run from them. He chose peace." The dog moved between the soldiers and the pod, snarling now, teeth bared. The soldiers raised their rifles higher. The commander gave no signal, but the air was thick with tension. Then the alien stirred. It dragged itself to the doorway, body trembling, breath ragged, and it spoke. "If you want to shoot someone, shoot me. I won't stop you. But this human, he's not your enemy. He saved me when he didn't have to. He gave me water, food, shelter. He treated me like I was worth something. I've never had that before. Not from my kind, not from yours." Silence followed. Even the wind seemed to stop. The dog lowered its head slightly. The humans stared at the commander, waiting. The soldiers looked uncertain now, their rifles still aimed but hands shaking just a little. The commander stepped closer, looked at the alien in silence, then turned back to the human. "You understand what happens next?" The human nodded. "I do, but I'll stand by him, whatever comes." Then the commander did something no one expected. He lowered his weapon, and the others followed. The human let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. The dog sat down, tail thumping slowly. The alien collapsed back into the pod, eyes closing again. The commander looked around at the ruins. "We can't change the war," he said. "But maybe we can change what happens after." The human didn't speak. He just looked at the alien and nodded once. And for the first time in days, the sky didn't feel so heavy anymore. But somewhere deep inside, he knew this wasn't the end, only the beginning of something they would all remember. The wind carried the sound of retreating engines as the ships pulled away from the ridge. The sky slowly cleared above the broken earth, stars blinking behind the smoke. The soldiers had withdrawn to the outer circle, watching but not approaching. The commander stood by the edge of the ruins, arms crossed, his face unreadable. The human sat at the entrance of the pod, the dog resting by his side. Inside, the alien slept with shallow breaths, its body wrapped in bandages in silence. No one had spoken in a while. The tension hadn't broken, just shifted into something new, uncertainty. It clung to every word left unsaid, every rifle still loaded. The human kept one hand on the dog's back. The steady heartbeat beneath his palm was the only thing that still felt normal. Then the dog's ears twitched. It lifted its head sharply, eyes locked toward the horizon. The human followed its gaze and saw movement in the distance. Figures, not soldiers, not drones. They walked with slow steps, hands empty, heads lowered. Civilians, maybe survivors, maybe witnesses. Some were human, some alien. All of them drawn by the signal, by the light in the tower. The commander saw them too and ordered his men to stand down. No one raised a weapon. The war wasn't over, but something had changed here. The dog stood and walked forward, tail low, posture calm but alert. The figures stopped at the edge of the clearing, unsure what they were walking into. Then the dog barked once, a short and friendly sound. It wagged its tail and trotted toward them. A small alien child stepped from behind one of the adults, eyes wide, skin a soft shade of blue. The dog slowed, sniffed the air, then licked the child's outstretched hand. Gasps rose from both sides, but no one moved. The child smiled. The dog turned and barked again, running back toward the pod, as if saying, "This is safe, this is all right." The alien stirred at the sound. Its eyes fluttered open. Struggling to focus, the human leaned in. "They're coming," he said. "Not soldiers. Not enemies, just people, and they're not afraid." The alien blinked slowly, then tried to sit up. The human helped him, supporting his back. "I never thought I'd see this," the alien whispered. "Neither did I," the human replied. "But your voice changed something, and the dog, he made them believe." The dog stood proudly near the pod as the crowd approached. No one spoke at first. They only looked at the human helping the alien, at the dog standing guard over both, at the rifle still held but no longer pointed, at the fear that had turned into curiosity. Then someone stepped forward, an older man with gray hair and sunburned skin. He looked at the human, then at the alien, and he asked one simple question. "Is he with you?" The human nodded. "He is." The old man looked at the alien again, then reached into his bag and pulled out a canister of water. He held it out. The alien stared for a moment, unsure if it was a trap, then took it with trembling hands. "Thank you," he whispered. The old man nodded and stepped back, and just like that, the others began to come forward, offering food, medicine, quiet words. No one knew what peace looked like anymore, but maybe this was the first step. The dog walked between them all, letting them touch his fur, pat his head. He didn't bark again. He didn't need to. The commander approached slowly, his armor still. Dusty from the drop, he stood beside the human and watched the people gather. "You realize this doesn't fix everything," he said. "I know," the human replied. "But maybe it starts something better." The commander looked at the alien, who returned his gaze without flinching. "I should be arresting you," the commander said. "Probably," the human replied. "And I should be dead," the alien added with a weak smile. But none of that happened, because the dog barked when it mattered, and someone listened. A field medic arrived, human but nervous. She asked for permission to check the alien's wounds. The human nodded. The alien said yes. She knelt beside him and began to work. Hands gentle but quick. More civilians arrived as word spread. Some carried damaged tech, hoping for repairs. Some just came to see the place where something changed, where enemies didn't kill each other, where a dog stood between two armies and made them stop. The dog drank from a shared bowl, tail wagging, as if he'd known all along this was possible. The sun began to rise over the ridge, turning the clouds pink and gold. Light poured over the battlefield like a quiet apology. The human sat beside the alien, silent for a while. Then he looked around at the people, the tired eyes, the uncertain smiles, and he said, "You think they'll remember this?" The alien coughed and nodded. "They will, because it wasn't guns that made it happen. It wasn't threats or orders or fear. It was kindness. One moment of kindness that changed everything. And a dog that wouldn't let us forget it." The dog barked as if in agreement, then lay down in the center of the clearing, the sun warming his back. The people slowly forming a circle around him. No more war in their hands, only questions in their hearts, and hope in their silence. That day, no one fired a shot. No blood was spilled, no sides were drawn, and though the war still burned in other places, something had cracked wide open here. Not a truce, not yet, but a beginning. One spark in a sea of fire. All because a soldier chose not to kill, an enemy chose to protect, and a dog chose to trust. That was the day the dog saved peace, and no one ever looked at war the same way again.